Welcome to Mortification of Spin, a casual conversation about things that count, with Carl Trueman, Todd Pruitt, and Amy Burke. Mortification of Spin is a weekly podcast from the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. Selling their wares outside a major evangelical conference, the Spinners got swept up in a conversation about worship music. Is all modern worship music bad? What's the antidote for so much junk? Listen to their take and then stay tuned after to find out how to get a free MP3 from the Alliance.
Well, this is an exciting time for Carl and Amy and I. We are outside the Gateway Conference here at Gateway Church in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's great to be back to my home state in Texas and finally at a great megachurch conference, because megachurches know how to do a good conference, Carl and Amy. And the main reason we're here is because we think the attendees at the Gateway Conference need copies of Amy's book, Housewife Theologian. And so we're seeking to give away copies, although I think I can discern that security is headed our way, so that could be problematic. But I'm attracted to these kinds of conferences just because of the sheer power and energy that comes out of these places. I know, Carl, I know you love the same thing. You're attracted to power and the aesthetic of evangelical power and its projection.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Christian faith is clearly about, if it's about anything, it's about the expression of raw power and triumph here on earth. And, you know, these mega churches, they've really got that down to a T. It's
Absolutely.
One of the reasons why I so love and respect the men who head them up, as you know.
Yes. And Amy, you know, we decided on your book. We figured that these attendees need something in regard to kind of maybe sharpening their theological skills, but it doesn't seem that security's appreciating it too much, and it seems that they're already beginning to confiscate the books. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we could go in, attend for a while, talk to some of the attendees, but my main attraction is just the booming power of the sound system and the music. I know, Amy, you and Carl both have run across some songs that would probably be very appropriate for one of these terrific conferences. I know Carl happens to have with him his favorite hymn book. Carl, I'm wondering if you could maybe even share some of the content.
Yeah, it's the songbook of the Little Temperance League from 1945, I think, and there are some real gems in this. But I think my favourite is the hymn entitled King Solomon. And if you don't mind, if I just read it, it's 3 verses long, so you have to bear with me. King Solomon was very wise, and this is what he said: "Look not upon the wine when it is red." And then the chorus is, "Look not upon the wine, look not upon the wine, look not upon the wine when it is red."
Oh, that's beautiful.
Second verse, "Our scientists today explain why Solomon was right, although he couldn't understand their explanations quite. Look not upon the wine, look not upon the wine,
look at it.
Look not upon the wine when it is red." Verse 3, "You may not be a scientist, you may not be a king, but you can have good common sense and daily teach and sing. Look not upon the wine, look not upon the wine, look not upon the wine when it is red."
Wow, that's powerful.
And didn't you just want to bow down and worship as I was reading that?
It kind of really makes
beautiful.
me want a glass of wine.
Now I'm thirsty.
But
Making me thirsty, that song.
Yeah.
there is one thing, though, in that song that I appreciate.
Yes.
And I make this point seriously, and it's that phrase at the end, daily teach and sing. Because whoever wrote the song, and they preferred to remain... Oh, no, A.G. Woodworth. If you're still alive and out there, A.G., love your stuff. There is a connection between what we sing and what we learn. Teaching and singing are connected. Both, I think, in terms of form and content. So that does raise a serious question of what is it that we should be singing in church?
Right.
If singing and teaching, singing and learning are so closely connected, what kinds of things should we be singing, teaching in church?
Well, I think Amy probably has a great suggestion. Amy, you were sharing with us earlier your favorite.
Well, this question of content in praise and worship songs was important to me in my early 20s, and I never really thought of it much before then. Grew up singing hymns in a Baptist church, and my husband and I were visiting this new church plant, and they just hired a new worship leader. And he was a little rock and roll and really into the contemporary stuff. And so we were already having some troubles with that. And there was a big screen behind him, and the words were playing on the screen with different pictures in the background. And so the one song that really did us in was called "Sweep Me Away." Let me read my lyrics. Suddenly, I feel you holding me. Suddenly, I feel you holding me. Say that 2 more times and go to the chorus. Sweep me away. Sweep me away. Sweep me away. Sweep me away. And in the pictures in the background, you see leaves blowing in the wind. And then the next line is, suddenly I feel your hand in mine, which you will then sing 3 more times. And that leads you right back to the chorus. Sweep me away. Sweep me away. Sweep me away. Sweep me away.
Wow. Carl is now holding my hand, oddly enough, which is making me very uncomfortable.
I just want to be swept away at this point.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
And, I can't figure out, why men don't sing in church anymore. But, that's a mystery, I'm sure.
They probably looked upon the wine.
Exactly.
That could be the problem.
So back to Carl's question and the connection he's making here. So what are we teaching in what? I mean, clearly we know what the wine song is teaching. What is the song that Amy just read? What is that teaching?
It's teaching, at best, it's teaching vacuous sentimentalism. Mm-hmm. At worst, it's almost teaching a form of eroticism,
right?
Both of which I think are highly problematic.
Right.
And it's this escaping the world for this romantic notion of God who's going to come and rescue us, and we're just going to escape from everything instead of sustaining us right now. I guess there is theology in this, but
it's just bad theology.
It's just really bad theology. And we went to the worship leader to complain about the song. What do you find troubling about this song? So many people like it.
Yeah.
And they did. I mean, hands were raised high and people were swaying back and forth with the wind and the leaves.
Right. Yeah, there's when I was in my days as a youth pastor, and the songs are still coming, but I remember distinctly lots of the praise songs that were being geared towards young adults and youth had lots of lyrics dealing with, I want to touch you, I want you to touch me, I want to feel you. These are all lines from songs that I heard sung many times when I was a youth pastor. And going to that idea of a strange bordering on eroticism, romantic notions, Jesus is my boyfriend, sorts of disturbing things. So it raises the question of what should the content of our sung praise be? Carl, of course, is a closet exclusive psalmist, being from having done time in Scotland.
Well, I go on record and say I'd be quite happy to sing nothing but the Psalms and A Mighty Fortress and A Debtor to Mercy Alone to the good funereal tune. For the rest of my days, that's all I need song-wise. I have been an elder in an exclusive psalm church. I'm very comfortable with just singing the psalms, but I do enjoy the hymns as well. What I would say is that the psalms set the benchmark for what the content of worship should be. I have theological reasons now why I'm not an exclusive psalmodist, but I think the emphases, the trajectories, the content of the psalms really give us a very good guide to the kind of things we should be singing in church. For example, thinking of what Amy's just read, the verging on erotic content there. The Psalms do express great love for God, but they never deviate or diverge or fall into sentimental eroticism. So the Psalms would give us a pattern for being able to express love to God without it being, like some sort of ghastly Beyonce lyric or something, which is essentially what that sounds like to me. So I would, joking aside, say the Psalms should be the bedrock of Christian worship. They should be part as psalms of Christian worship, but they should also set a framework for the other things that we sing in Christian worship.
Yeah, and I would agree. I'm obviously not persuaded by the exclusive psalmody hermeneutic. However, I do agree with you about the priority of psalms in that they help set the trajectory for Christian worship. The other thing they do, and it's captured in what you said, Carl, is that they give us a language for the whole sweep of human experience. So one of the things that's conspicuously missing from much of contemporary worship, not all, but much, is any sort of category for suffering or lament or complaint. And the Psalms do give us a language for that. And there are some historic hymns that do as well, but much contemporary worship tends to be one note emotionally, which is, if you are not feeling happy or triumphant, you're not given a language really in much of contemporary praise.
Yeah, and there's even content in the Psalms about the wrath of God and the coming judgment. And,
Right.
I mean, those are things that I think should be included in some of our songs as well.
Sweep me away.
Sweep me away, which I think also, it helps us with the hymns that we pick to sing, because I wrote down to talk about the hymn In the Garden.
Right.
And we've talked a little bit about the Jesus Calling book by Sarah Young, and I just think that kind of theology can come straight from singing in the garden. Right. He walks with me and he talks with me in the garden alone.
Yeah, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. So it gives this, me and Jesus, and what I experience with Jesus is totally unique. It's our little thing we're doing. And a lot of that became kind of common in 19th century romantic hymnody. Unfortunately, we see those romantic influences, which was just in a lot of ways a precursor for some of the worst of the modern chorus movement.
Yeah, I think it's worth remembering, of course, that many of the great hymn writers that we celebrate today did write a significant proportion of garbage. Wesley wrote far more hymns than are in your standard hymn book.
Right.
And if you go back and look, there are reasons why a lot of his hymns are not reprinted. They're clunkers. They're not very good. So we need to be a little charitable, perhaps, to the present age in terms of, every age produces its garbage. Time is a great corroder of garbage, and garbage tends to vanish and doesn't get reprinted.
You mean Sweep Me Away isn't going to last?
It's
not going to be a classic?
If God exists, Sweep Me Away will not last. I'm confident that this will be proof of God's existence.
Well, for instance, Isaac Watts wrote Here Comes Santa Claus, and so that's a perfect example of... Anyway.
Amazing that he even used the American phrase for Father Christmas when he was
That's
English.
right.
So that's quite stunning.
Absolutely, it is stunning. But you heard it here first, folks. And incidentally, does anybody know what Blaze Spirit Blaze means?
What does that mean?
Or Flow River Flow?
I was going to say, I think it's a synonym for flow, which is a synonym for blaze, spirit blaze.
Well, one of the things, and here's another thing I appreciate about good hymns, the best of our hymns, whether it's Isaac Watts or John Newton, or even some of the new hymns that have been written that are actually quite good content-wise, is that they help to synthesize biblical doctrine. So as the Psalms have a trajectory that are pointing us to Christ, the best of our Christian hymnody helps really flesh that out. I think it's appropriate for New Covenant people to be singing the name of Jesus and to be singing about the atonement. So it's a great thing to sing, and Can It Be, and some of the other great hymns, which singing psalms exclusively don't allow you to do. And one of my pushbacks for exclusive psalmody is that there's a lot of psalms that a Mormon could sing, if that makes sense. But they can't sing Holy, Holy, Holy. Anyway, do what you will with that, Carl.
Argument.
David Reese, if you're out there, I'm waiting for your email that I will pass on to Todd when it arrives.
Just saying.
Yes,
that's not the only argument against exclusive psalmody, but I am saying a Mormon cannot sing Holy, Holy, Holy.
Maybe he could sing Sweep Me Away.
He could sing Sweep Me Away, perhaps. Carl is completely unpersuaded by my argument, but I find it quite compelling
I'm already
myself.
anticipating. The problem is I'm reasonably well connected with the Reformed Presbyterians over here, and they will send their emails of complaint to me, not to you.
Hey, trust me, I've had dealings, and they can be a rough crowd, so I'm ready.
If you want this man's home address, I will provide it for you.
This program is not about exclusive psalmody, so I'm sorry I brought that up.
But to go back to a point we can probably all agree on.
Yes.
When you learn a foreign language, quite often one of the trendy ways of learning a foreign language is to recite phrases rhythmically. Sometimes to sing them. You teach kids to a language. I remember learning Latin as a young child at my school, and one of the things we would do is we would chant the Latin verses to a certain rhythm, and it was easier to learn the language that way. So I think as one of the things we need to do as pastors and elders is understand that when people sing hymns, they're learning stuff. When they sing the Psalms, they're learning the Word of God. We place the pulpit central. We tend to think of the pulpit rightly as a central part of worship. The proclamation of the Word is where God meets with his people in a profound and transformative way. But we shouldn't underestimate the way that singing can do that as well. Right. I sometimes think that people may get much of their theology from what they sing rather than what they hear. And so that makes it imperative that we don't sing garbage, like, was it Sweep, Jesus Sweep, or Sweep Me Away. It doesn't even mention Jesus. It's even worse than Sweep, Jesus, Sweep. And by the way, if Sweep, Jesus, Sweep exists, please don't send me the lyrics. I'm not interested in learning them. But it makes it imperative that we choose good songs to sing in our worship service. And also that those songs are coordinated with the rhythm of the worship service. Now, I know that not all Reformed or evangelical people have a dramatic structure to their worship service, but at my church we'll typically have call to worship, then we'll have prayer for God's blessing, we'll have a confession of sin, we'll have a prayer for God's people, and that provides a kind of dramatic structure to the service. And what the guy who puts together my orders of worship, I like to think of him as my content provider, because it's sort of cool to think of him that way. My content provider.
Pastor of content.
My pastor of content provision.
Yes.
My pastor of content provision tries to make sure that what we sing connects with the point at which we are in the service.
Right.
So the dramatic movement of the service, the content of the songs, and the sermon are all reinforcing the points that are being made both generally in the structure of the service and specifically in the sermon.
Right.
I give my content provider, my sermon text early in the week so he can think about what songs would connect that to the rhythm of the service.
Yeah, we do the same thing at our church, and like you, we have a similar liturgy. Call to worship. We'll have a confession of sin, an assurance of pardon, to give the service a cruciform shape, so to speak. It rehearses the gospel, if you like. And the songs, both content-wise and in the musical mood of it, are to reflect those things. So if we're at the confession of sin, we're not going to sing a song that you would want to clap to, for instance. The melody is going to reflect something of the sobriety of that moment in the service where we're going to deal with our sin. And those are important. In that way, our hymnody becomes a method of catechesis, of teaching. And I think, Carl, your point earlier about what we learn about God and what we sing, I'm thinking about, Amy, those lyrics you read, and knowing a generation raised on things like that, where they're saying to Jesus, sweep me away, or I want to feel you, this kind of thing.
Feel the warmth of your embrace.
Exactly. You can tell when you're trying to pastor people who've been weaned on that material, because they oftentimes have very little patience for sermons that are then rich in content and not just simply
they're already swept
romantic.
away. I mean,
right.
Well, that's what I appreciate about some of the Geddes music.
Absolutely.
Is that they have some songs tailored for certain parts of the worship service too, like "Speak, O Lord." I really like the content of that song, and to help prepare you to hear the word.
Songs that are new hymns that are tailored for communion, that help teach what we are doing at the table.
Right.
These things are very important.
Yeah, I sometimes find it confusing on the odd occasion. I'll be away at a church where they have their own liturgical structure. It's just not a well thought out one. They'll have the sort of 20, 25 minutes of singing one praise song after another. And often there's no connection between the praise songs, other than the fact the last one you sing will tend to be a little bit quieter and more peaceful and just settling people down for the sermon. But I like to spot the pattern in the worship service. What am I being taught? What am I singing here?
Right.
Because we are embodied human beings. What we do with our bodies, what we do with our vocal cords, these things make a difference to how we think as Christians.
One church I visited actually had a newsletter to where on Friday they would send you the songs that you would be singing on Sunday.
Yeah,
We do that.
we do
I like
that.
that a lot.
Yep, we talk. Every member of our church gets an email on how to prepare for that coming Sunday, and our
That's wonderful.
pastor for worship
Very
writes
helpful.
that. Absolutely, tells about the songs we're going to be singing. He even, because he knows what I'm going to be preaching, he'll give a little bit of summary of the content of the passage, and it's a wonderful thing.
Right.
That's great. I mean, if you're in a small church with a $5 million budget, I mean, you can pull that thing off week after week. What do I do? Well, it's a
Well, don't you? Well, have your pastor of content.
I'll have my pastor of content provision. Please give him his full title.
Yeah, well, that's good, Carl. I'm glad you have that available to you at Cornerstone, where I'm sure you host mega conferences and that sort of thing.
Okay, I'm going to throw in one out of left field here
Okay.
that's just come to me and could be controversial. Choirs.
You
Should
know,
you have
that
choirs?
is something that I've thought about a lot because I grew up with choirs,
Right.
and then attended a PCA church where the choir seats are there, but there is no choir, and so I was like, where's the choir? But then now it seems like choirs have been replaced by kind of praise and worship teams,
Yeah.
bands.
I would throw them into the same category. I would say they're different examples of the same phenomenon.
Right. I'm not a fan of choirs. I was like you, Amy. I was raised in choirs, raised Southern Baptist, so lots of choirs, lots of emphasis on choir. When I was a teenager, I was a part of a youth choir in my home church that had over 200 students in it. So that was it was almost vested with sacramental power. But I can tell you this now: being at a PCA church without a choir and without, quote, special music on Sundays
Right.
has reduced my headaches by about 75%. As far as the sorts of problems and complaints and jockeying for
Wow.
position and demands for
Wow.
attention.
That's
It's
interesting.
been wonderful.
You can negotiate with a terrorist, but you can't negotiate with an organist or a choir
The
director.
soloist, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
I tend to think choirs are superfluous. I think they can be helpful perhaps in leading the singing. I'm not so persuaded by sitting and listening to the choir sing at some point in the service. And I love, other than my rock music, I love medieval choir music.
Yeah. And I would, and again, I would agree with you from the standpoint of one of the things that I think a choir would be very helpful for is it helps ensure that the primary instrument for our praise are the voices of the people. And a choir is able to do that because it helps project the voices
Yes.
all the more.
It's good
and
to
that's
have,
a good thing.
One or two or more voices to help lead.
Absolutely. You want
The
the voice
singers.
of the people to be the primary instrument in our praise.
Well, you see, if you're an exclusive psalm church, which I'm not, but if I
Yes.
was, you'd have unaccompanied psalm singing led by a precentor, in which case the only musical instrument is the voice. My experience of that has been in some churches, it's a disaster. You need some strong singers, but it does generally strengthen singing on the whole.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, it strengthens singing. I also wonder why aren't they at the back? Same with praise bands. I mean, if you want to make
I've
the
thought
case
that
that
myself.
this is not entertainment,
Right.
that this is not a performance, stick them at the back where nobody can see them.
Right.
You can hear them, you get all the benefits, but you're not seeing, the guy with the guitar closing his eyes and going into mystical raptures as he strums his rhythms and nobody's singing. There's that sort of stuff,
One thing I saw that I did like at a church I visited, they were off to the side, it was modest. They had some children there too. So it wasn't about just the best singers in the church leading in worship. There were, it was only maybe 5 or 6 people, but they were all different ages. And I had the feeling that they must change it up a lot.
Did they have women there as well?
They had women and men and children.
Yeah, that's got to be in a PCA church.
I'm
It
sure.
was.
I'm sure.
It was.
Yeah, all that revivalism and whatnot. Yeah, the claptrap. Sure.
But then, and maybe just as we're drawing, I suppose, guess to a close at this point. But again, I was intrigued, and I've written on this, as you know, Tan. I'm intrigued by giving those who are suffering a voice in worship. First came to my attention some years ago. My wife had a miscarriage, and we were in a psalm singing church at the time, and I was very grateful.
Yeah.
Because we can go to church and we're singing psalms of lamentation.
Right.
And part of the problem with modern praise is it gets its eschatology wrong. It's all about triumph here and now, which is very easy when you're a middle-class, wealthy American with not a lot to worry about. And even the not wealthy middle class Americans don't have a lot to worry about compared to people in ISIL, for example, or in most of the world. Psalms of Lamentation, I think, do give a more accurate account of our experience here and now relative to what is a biblical eschatology, that yes, indeed, there is a sense in which we are dead and resurrected with Christ here and now, Colossians, but we also know there is death, real death to come, and real resurrection to come. And striking that balance, that eschatological balance in our worship is difficult.
Yeah, and to not demand that every member of our congregation walking in must feel happy at that moment. And sometimes our music demands that they feel happy at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't have joyful songs, because we are called to be, while we grieve, to also be joyful. So that's appropriate. But oftentimes the structure of our praise and the content and the musical accompaniment of our praise oftentimes demands that everybody feel happy as soon as they walk in that building, and we know that's not true.
Yeah. And the ghastly climax of this stuff is the funeral as celebration of life, which I think is. Yes. I won't go as far as to say it's blasphemous, but I say it certainly could be.
And
death is not meant to be there. We're not meant to celebrate death.
Exactly.
That's ghastly.
And it's pastorally cruel as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, it takes away, I think, our ultimate hope when you're just celebrating a life that is now gone. I mean, of course, funeral's time for grieving and for realizing death shouldn't be, and this is the curse. But it's also for pointing to the resurrection. Yeah. Right. And the fact that Jesus is at the right hand of the Father right now, interceding on our behalf through our grieving. Yeah. And so, I think that it also gives us a better and a truer hope. Yeah.
We mourn, not as those without hope, but we do mourn, and it's important that it's liturgically expressed at such moments. Well, we'd like to thank you for joining us on the Mortification of Spin, a casual conversation that counts. Please visit our website, mortificationofspin.org, and I would like to reassure Todd that I've never walked into a worship service where he's about to preach and felt remotely happy. So we look forward to speaking with you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Mortification of Spin, a podcast of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. The Alliance is a coalition of pastors, scholars, and churchmen who hold to the historical creeds and confessions of the Reformed faith and who proclaim biblical doctrine in order to foster a Reformed awakening in today's church. Now that the spin has been mortified, you can go to our website, mortificationofspin.org, to download the message Singing Psalms, an aid to preaching from Terry Johnson. Next week, the crew takes on another controversial topic. No surprises there.
What we seem to have lost in recent years is the concept of friendship.
One thing that you two are getting at here is this whole idea of intimacy and how we've so connected it only with sexual intimacy. And everybody needs intimacy.
All that and more next time. Thanks for listening.
Well done.
I was going to throw it in the actual program, but I thought it was kind of a serious moment. I didn't want to burst the bubble, so I'd keep it to the end.
Well played, Mr. Bond.
Oh, my.